With her visceral mix of poetry, song, and movement, performance artist Dorothée Munyaneza finds powerful expression for often unspeakable horrors. Born in Kigali, she left Rwanda after the genocide at the age of 12, moving to the UK and eventually to France. Her work, Mai, showing this week at the Chaillot National Theatre here in Paris, is an exploration of roots, resistance, and collective memory. I'm excited to welcome Dorothée Munyaneza to our show today to tell us more. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, your piece, Mai, which could translate to mesh in English, is a collaboration with 5 other Black female artists, all African or of African descent. What made you want to work with this group of women, and what story did you want to tell together?
Thank you for having me once again. My collaborators actually were all people that I fell in love with for some reason or another when I met them, whether it was Ifede in Haiti, or Asma Jama in Bristol, or Yinka Graves that I've known actually for the longest since we went to London together at the Lycée Français Charles de Gaulle, or Nido Uwera, who lives here in Paris, or even Elsa Mulder, that I met during the pandemic, actually, because 2 of the former members that were supposed to be in the show, Zora Santos from Brazil and Kiara Collins from Chicago, were not able to join us. So I think it started from a place of love, a place of admiration for their work, for the poetry, for the movement, for the performance, for the artistry that is theirs, but also the engagement, their political engagement in the way that they stand in their truths as Black female artists in their realms, in their fields. And so gathering them, bringing them together in this show was a manifestation of that love and that joy, and to actually share a space with them to commemorate together where we've been and where we're actually going together.
And having shared all of those experiences and kind of brought them all together, what came out of that? What are some of the shared parts of your history?
It seems as though I'm more and more pulled both in both ways, because I'm here in Europe, right? I'm living now in France. I've lived 14 years in London, but I actually spent my childhood in Rwanda. So my roots, my journey has come from that land. But the more I grow up, the more I expand. Let's say that I physically expand, but also my memory expands. And I realized more and more that all the African descendants that I was meeting, whether in the United States or in South America or in the diaspora in Europe, we have a common story, because for me it feels like we are children of the dispersed. That history has somehow dispersed us through, I don't know, I do know, through colonial violence or slave trade, or even through the choices that our parents have made to move because of opportunities they had, not just through some kind of diasporic violence, but something of a choice. And so for me, it's like a gathering of spirits, a gathering of stories, a gathering of histories that I was really aiming for. And that's what I feel like my collaborators and I brought out. And in this struggle to come together, a lot of joy emerged. A lot of love continued to feel as if it was our shared common ground. But really, truly, and truly, it's a commemoration and it's a celebration. Mai, for me, is celebrating who we are.
Let's take a look then at that celebration with a clip from Mai.
The rain came because we had wanted it, and they listened. The rain came because we had wanted it, and they listened. Angel told me my name was beautiful, and I had wanted that, and I listened. Everything I ever wanted, everything I ever asked for. This is about changing your name into a call and answering back. These are the long stem flowers I got myself. These are the delicate ways I love myself anyway. I love myself.
And I'm not sure if we exactly heard it in that particular clip, but this show has a lot of bells in it. It begins with the ringing of bells. Can you explain why that sound and what bells represent to you?
Yes. So I've been collaborating a lot with Alain Maillet, who is really an incredible musician and composer based in Bretagne, and as well as Ben Lamar Gay, who's from Chicago. He's a cornet player and a composer, musician. And so when I was telling Alain Maye about the need to work with bells or with this sound, because for me it reminds me of my childhood when I would hear church bells, Catholic bells, because I grew up in a Protestant family. But church bells, I always wondered why do we have church bells? How did church bells come about? And of course it came with colonization or even the pre-colonial era when we had the missionaries. That bell for me is connecting to that history of conversion to Christianity, to Catholicism. There was a lot of violence linked to that conversion. And so it's remembering that violence, remembering what we have now, but also remembering that we did have religion, we did have certain traits of beliefs that we still want and need to connect with, despite the erasure, despite the oblivion.
The set design, it sort of evokes hanging bodies. It brings to mind A Strange Fruit of Billie Holiday. I'm wondering if that was part of the idea behind it.
Partly, yes. Because for me, when I was talking to Stéphanie Couder, who is also a very wonderful and close collaborator, she's made my costumes for the past few performances. She actually works, it's one of her thing to work with suspended garments. And part of this way of doing it, she calls it silent clothes, which is the same initials as Stéphanie Couder, her own name. But the good thing is that, the idea behind the silenced bodies, is that they're not silent, they're present. For me, it's the present ones. It's not just the ones that have died. Yes, they have died or they have transitioned, but also it's the future ones. It's the future lives. It's the people that are present with us on stage. It's those that we carry. It's those that we celebrate, not merely because they have passed on, but because they are to come. So it's that bridge between the ones who have been and the ones who are becoming.
And Dorothée, much of your work has centered around your own personal history. I want to take a look at a clip from one of your earlier shows. This is Samedi, Détente, or Saturday Relaxation. It's about your experience during the Rwandan genocide in 1994.
Ce jour-là, les Interahamwe nous ont tous alignés. Ce jour-là, ils ont fait leur choix. Ils n'ont même pas protesté, ils n'ont même pas pleuré, ils ont été massacrés dehors, dehors.
Dorothée, this was such a personal story, and I know that the title has a meaning. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes. First of all, I'll start by correcting you a little bit, because we tend to say the Rwandan genocide, but it's actually the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, because they were the victims. Yes, this piece, Saturday Relaxation, or Samedi Détente, is actually taken from my title and the name of a radio show called Samedi Détente that we used to listen to when I was a young child. But it was actually destined for an older generation, like that of my parents or my older siblings. So when I was listening to the radio broadcast, it was mostly music that came from America, from France, from Belgium, from Congo, from Zaire, ex-Zaire, which is now the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so I remember those nights, eagerly awaiting that music to come on and to dance with my friends the coming Monday. But these friends or family members, most of them have been killed during the genocide against the Tutsi. So Samedi Détente was a way of remembering again that childhood, those moments that we were joyfully rejoicing with each other, celebrating with each other, remembering that childhood, but also knowing that it was no longer that joy, that moment of innocence that I was about to talk about. It's actually about the ultimate violence that there is, a genocide. So Samedi Détente for me was a work of commemoration, yet again. And it actually was my first piece with my company, Kadidi. And I it was very important for me to start with an autobiographical piece, even though it was not just merely centered around my story. It's that of so many other people, and it's them to whom I wanted to dedicate this piece.
It's incredible the way you're able to bring so much joy into these works on such difficult topics. Dorothée, we always end our interviews with a cultural pick, and you chose the Marseille-based performance collective La Famille Maraboutage. Tell us about them and what you enjoy about their work.
It's an Afro-futuristic collective that I love because they're full of cheer, they're full of energy, they're fearless. Like, even though they're talking about marginalized beings, queer people, black and brown people, but they're there using music as a tool to gather, not just the marginalized, but also gather those who are always in the center. The reason I love them so much is that I sweat when I'm there. You know, I'm there to have a good time, and I'm there to feel like, yes, I'm surrounded by people who care for me, even though I might not know them, but it's like that whole space is there to care for you.
That sounds like just the perfect energy for us to end on. We will leave you dancing with a clip of La Famille Maraboutage. Dorothée Munyaneza, thank you so much again for being here. Thanks to all of you for watching. For more culture, you can always head to our website or find us on social media. And there's more news coming up on France 24 after this.